phone. The public is also able to observe the meeting on the Township's YouTube channel. Please continue to check the Township website calendar for any updates related to these public meetings. Agendas for these public meetings will also be available on the Township's website. Please be reminded that this meeting is being video and audio recorded and will be posted to the Township's YouTube channel for viewing. The meeting will now proceed with the chairman calling the meeting to order and identifying all other members present in the meeting room and those joining the meeting via Zoom. The chairman will then confirm those members joining by Zoom can be heard.
Okay, call the meeting to order. I guess let's pledge allegiance to the flag first. Pledge allegiance to the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. Okay, well, this evening's committee reorganization, but before we start that, let's just go around the room and see who all is here. Ralph, why don't you start us off? Hutchison, on the township manager.
Sarah Hitchens, Assistant Township Manager.
Dave Gribble, Bronx Fire Company.
Paul Fisher, Hand Power Company.
Mike Thornton, Board Representative.
Eric Bergstrom, citizen member of Lafayette.
Dana Ormerod, citizen representative for Bernay.
Dakota Hope, Whitmer Fire.
Jason Morello, Lafayette Fire.
Why don't we go around the room since we don't have that many people here?
Susan Sutton, Lafayette Fire.
Mike Kramer, Whitmer Fire.
Big Church, Bronx Fire.
Donna Gribble, Bronx.
And on Zoom, we have, please report in.
Oh, we just had Jeff Hatfield join.
Okay. Jeff, you want to say who you are and who you represent? May still be coming in.
And he's gone.
He's gone. Okay. What's that? Did you introduce yourself? Roger Rudd. Okay. Thank you. Okay, the first thing we need to do is create committee reorganization. And I guess select a temporary chairperson to do this. Are there any nominations from the floor? This is just to get this organization started.
Nominate Eric Bergstrom.
Any other nominations? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, so I'm the temporary chair, and our first line of business is to elect a chairperson. So what nominations can I hear from the floor, including Zoom?
You don't have any committee members on Zoom, so.
Oh, okay, okay.
Not Eric again for that position.
I cannot do it this year. I have too much out of town travel. I had been zooming in the last couple of meetings that I wasn't here. It's not a very effective way to run a meeting. Any other nominations?
I'll nominate Mike Thornton.
After that, any other? Any other nominations for chair? First of all, Ralph, we have a quorum. Yes. Okay. Okay, Mike has been nominated in second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, Mike, you are the chairperson and you can take over at this point to.
Counting on you here for a couple of years now.
Well, I'll be here, but.
Well, thank you very much. Appreciate that, Paul. Thank you for your vote of confidence. So next up, we'll have to elect a vice chair, and we'll take nominations for that position. The chair nominate. Nominate Paul Fisher. Okay, we've got a first and a second. All in favor, Paul, for vice chair? Signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Congratulations. All right, the next is elect a secretary. Always a challenging one, but very, very valuable. We appreciate Jason's work on this. Thanks so much, Jason. We'll take nominations.
Chad.
Okay, nomination for Chad Engler from Whitmer. We have a second.
Second that.
There's a second. Any other nominations? Okay, all in favor for Chad Engler for the secretary role, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? And motion carries. All right, Chad, thank you.
Yeah, if you want, I'll take them for this meeting, then I'll
Yeah.
send my files.
Yeah, and then just show me
For ease of use.
what you're doing.
Okay, great. Thank you all very much. Looking forward to working through a lot of the things that we started here, and we'll talk about some of those tonight. So we'll start out with the approval of the minutes from the September 2023 regular meeting.
Correction, yeah, St. Church is listed as the additional attendee. He is the alternate rep for Roxbury.
That's Nate Church. Nate is the alternate for Ron. Okay, we'll make that note.
I think these minutes are actually from two months ago or 2 meetings ago. Last meeting, we did not have a quorum. So I think that was probably already corrected.
We didn't approve these because we didn't.
Right.
Okay,
I guess my point was that you were in attendance for that meeting, so you were Ronx's representative.
Correct. So on the following alternate non-voting committee members were in attendance. Listed and held down.
it's how they're listed, yeah, it's how it's listed in the minutes. Yep. Okay, any other comments on the minutes? Good note on that. They are from 2 meetings ago because we didn't have a quorum.
Make a motion, we approve them in that one correction.
Okay, motion by Paul. Do we have a second?
Second.
Eric with a second. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? And minutes are approved. Okay, next is old business. So we start with reports from our respective committees on fire apparatus replacement, hand in hand. You're first.
Yeah, I really don't have anything to report. Pretty much the same status as it was the last meeting, and I expect it to remain there for quite a while. So no real updates.
And next on fire apparatus replacement, Lafayette.
Yeah, committee's meeting very regularly. They've taken a look at a couple other units for manufacturers over the last, since September. They're currently building out a spec, which I believe is anticipated to be done very soon, to be able to put out for preliminary rough bids. And then the goal would be to select a final manufacturer and then just fine tune it from there.
Just so I heard you right, Jason, you said finishing the specs to put those out for
Okay.
proposals. Okay, great.
So hopefully till the next meeting, might have a little bit more information as far as actual costs, at least roughly what we're looking at. And some maybe better timelines. But it's still currently being quoted the same lead times. We have tentative timeframe to go out to other partners. I just don't know how quick they're gonna.
The time frame was that to finish and really have those out by spring?
Yeah, I mean, our goal, I know they were hoping to have them out here Q1 to the manufacturers to get back some preliminary prints and.
Right.
I think the goal they're really looking at right now is just build a very non-generic, non-manufacturer specific spec and let the chips fall where they may.
Get some more options and yeah, some choice for better prices. Sure. Okay, thank you for that. Moving on in old business B, subcommittee reports, public information.
You, Paul?
Yeah, I guess that would be me, or if Dakota's on the committee and Susie there's on the committee as well, but we have not met in the last 2 months. We are trying to schedule another meeting, just had a couple of emails going back and forth the last couple of days, hoping to get together here beginning of February, get on the next issue. We're planning, I think the tentative plan is to do a recognition of the firefighters of the year for the 4 fire companies. We'll probably be going into the next issue. And we're hoping also at the next meeting, maybe kind of lay out next 3 or 4 at least topics so that we can start working on those. So I think that's all I have unless, yeah, Susie or Dakota, feel free to chime in. Zane, that's pretty much it.
The township newsletter came out the other day. I think I got it in the mail. Who does that go to? Does that go to every household or?
Our goal is to hit every mailbox.
Okay. So even like the apartment complexes, all the apartments would get it, that type of thing.
Can't promise.
I know.
That happens that way, but that is what we try to do.
And with roughly 1,100 more apartments at least planned, we'll have to be ready for it.
Yep.
That as that element of our township grows. Yeah. It's an excellent newsletter.
Yeah.
I mean, the inset there, your work and then covering all emergency services is just great. I get specific feedback about it, that it really, it's easy to read. I think that helps the seniors. I actually brought it to my parents. My mother's 88, my father's 90, and they have no problem. They just like the imagery and so really good.
And I just would add on to that one. A couple of things we have been talking about is trying to do articles that are not always the same kind of focus. So it's kind of some human interest things sometimes, and then some educational things, and then some kind of recruitment, retention, and also appealing for funds. But we don't want to wear out, like, you know, just come back and keep hitting with the same thing. We're hoping to make it so that people are actually interested and read it and, you know, take something away from it. So in case you're wondering, that's what we're trying to do.
I think you're accomplishing that goal. I do. Yeah. Okay. Now under subcommittee reports, finance. Who from finance would we have that would want?
Donna, myself.
Okay. Want to take the lead, Donna?
Well, we kind of actually settled in on something. We have 2 subcommittees started. One is to go over the replacement schedule for the apparatus, to include refurbs and timeframes for those. The other one, did you get a hold of?
Matt, I've not discussed it with Matt yet. No, I'm still working on it.
He's been a schedule. And the other one is
Mike.
he is going to help work on financing and how the money is distributed to the 4 different fire companies. And they're both going to be coming back with a schedule at our next meeting for us to start going over. We are meeting first Thursday of every month, so we've been meeting regularly. So things are moving along. Once we get those 2 schedules, we'll be able to be more specific on some of our items.
Mm-hmm.
We were kind of all over the first 2 meetings with a lot of ideas and differences, because 4 fire companies are all very different, and corralling everybody into one area takes a little bit of time.
I feel that I should say, you know, as we got through budget season on the Board of Supervisors, we are certainly committed to addressing the deficit spending that we're doing in the township. We can't continue to do that. We can't keep taking off our reserves to balance the budget. So we have increased taxes slightly, but they have gone up this year, and we've challenged our departments to be examining their budgets throughout the year this year to look for ways that savings can be at least combined into addressing this issue. It's one that we just cannot kick down the road. We have to address it now. So I would just say, just because it's a finance committee, to, you know, keep an eye on that, and I'm sure that will be brought into those discussions too. Okay, human resources and volunteers report there.
Yeah, we met 2 times. Same kind of experience. First meeting was somewhat chaotic in terms of our human resources, because we were talking about human resources that actually man the equipment and go out and address emergency situations. And then, for lack of better words, the back office, the administrative, the people that kind of help the fire company run, which would be more of the fundraising and administrative tasks and things of that nature. And so, and I'll give credit to Susie for this. She and I had some conversations, but she really put together an agenda for the second meeting, where we met together first, the 2 groups, discussed some things, and then broke and split out in 2 different groups: the firefighting people and the administrative support type people. That did work out very well in terms of having deeper, narrower discussions. I found myself probably being disruptive, but also being somewhat going into the finance realm, and then having to be pulled back out of that, and looking at things in a very narrow slice of life versus a more broader thing. So anyhow, we ended up coming together, reporting on our 2 different areas of thought. The firefighting people on the road fighting fires had 2 or 3 very good recommendations. Out of fairness, they want to talk, the people on the committee want to talk to their chiefs first to make sure that there's an understanding and an input and a buy-in and that type of thing first. And same thing with the administrative. We talked a lot about different things. I think, who was it that
Daryl.
what's that?
Daryl from Bergen.
Yeah, he spent a good amount of time, and we talked a lot about the culture that's in each of the different fire companies and how that impacts volunteerism. And so there were some things that we discussed there. We also, and I'm trying to think, who was it that talked about the different priorities that different people have? Miller, yeah. Miller talked a little bit about, okay, sitting here, his priorities were, firefighting and training to be a good firefighter, and then helping to take information from what he's learned in terms of, you're on fire, you see something. Let's use electric batteries in cars, for example. You fight fires like that and you learn something. Now you take that not only to the fire companies, but back to the community and say, here's an issue that you should be aware of. So there's some education that's being done by firefighters based on their learnings on the job. So there's that public relations piece that firefighters do for the community. But then there's kind of a dotted line or something that says, okay, from there on down, there are things that volunteers can do that don't necessarily have to jump on a truck and go. And that's where we're talking about fundraising and things of that nature. And from a priority standpoint, he was saying, the top part is what he's involved in. He does do the bottom stuff, but it's also important that other people do the bottom stuff. That's equally important, but different than jumping on a fire. So we had that pretty strong discussion at the front end. That kind of helped us go through the process. And so Susie put out the meeting minutes. I think a number of people on the committee got them. We're going to let the information go down to the chiefs and to the actual fire companies and go that way, and then report out a little bit more after our next meeting. But I honestly have to say that I think we have some very good, solid recommendations for how to do human resources a little bit better, albeit tweaked for each company because of their culture. Does that make sense? Add anything, Susie?
I think the only other piece is that we did request, we created like a Google Drive link for generic data from fire companies. Each fire company is really passionate about and can speak from the heart about where they stand, but to actually use some data about, how old are different members, where are they involved on both sides of the house or just one? So really key metrics. What trainings do they have if they're a firefighter? Are they future leaders of their company if they're an associate member? Those type of questions to ask of ourselves so that we can see not only now, but into the future and have metrics of data rather than just how we feel in our hearts about volunteer fire service. So we do have a Google Drive link that's up that we would appreciate if all 4 fire companies would kind of anonymously enter data into those. If whatever number system you might have at your fire company probably would be effective. So reach out to your HR rep to kind of learn more. And if you have any questions or feedback or suggestions on how that can be done or columns that should be added, we're all ears.
I think we're having, our next meeting will be at a different, we were at Lafayette this time. So we had the breakout rooms and that there. We'll be at a different location, is that right?
13th at Whitworth.
Oh, okay.
You guys have a set meeting schedule for that
Yeah.
every other month or monthly?
We skipped a month. We're kind of gauging based on how we're able to respond to the action items we created.
Yeah.
For the finance committee, there's township representation. Is there any township representation at the HR here?
Not so far.
It's the same time, the meeting that we chose is the same time as zoning. So I wouldn't expect township to be involved, in fairness. But they are included on all the hearings. Eric's been included. So please chime in if you see something, say something.
But to that point, there's our meeting minutes. Ralph, you've received many meeting minutes. Jerry, you have. Mike and I have had conversations after, so there's a lot of conversation going on. That's taking what, just as the representatives from the fire companies are working up through their chiefs, I'm talking to the township supervisor and making sure that it's getting back to the township. That was really one of the things that we talked about in the meeting, was how do we make sure that the township and the township supervisors aren't blindsided that we're going down this path and not seeing what's going on or what we're talking about. So that was important.
Yeah, it's possible for this committee to get copies of those minutes.
That,
It's possible for everyone.
The ESC committee.
Correct.
Yeah.
Our fire chief is not on services. We can see those minutes that we know. So I know what.
It was sent to your rep, and he's obviously dealing with, family.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
we can respect and understand.
I think that was a request that the rep would take it up through the chief, but
Okay.
there's no reason for not doing it.
That's just, I think it's important that everybody on this group see it also, because it's a subcommittee of this group.
Yeah.
We have no problem going to fire chief, but it's a subcommittee of this group, and it'd be nice to know what our committees are doing.
I think even just the reps as well, so they're
Right.
So that we just make sure we would have copies for our meetings, then that'd be great. That's a good point, Dave. Thank you. For the human resources and volunteers and fellow supervisor here, Roger Rudd is here, and Roger just sent some things this week talking about tax relief to entice volunteers and have them consider it. I guess York County had one, and where was the other one, Roger? Is that near Pittsburgh?
I think so.
Something like that, actually approaching a school board, property tax relief. I don't know if those are topics that have come up in that committee.
Not in ours, it may have been in the finance.
I think that's something Lancaster County is in the process of, or just passed as well. There's good sides and bad sides of that. The good side is, I guess they're doing something. The bad news is, I think it's like $150. And then it's another burden of paperwork that it's questionable in my mind whether it's even almost worth the hassle. The other downside, I think, is that it's honestly kind of discriminatory, because people that are not property owners really are not benefiting from it. So probably half the fire companies, and then
I think part of one article was which taxing body should you relieve, for some of those issues, but and would it really produce the results? That's the other
I
thing.
think
We
that's.
do a lot of work, and would it really, will that make the difference?
I mean, I know looking at from our perspective, and I can't speak for every member, but I think the general sense is it's almost like don't insult us by offering us $150. It's like, we're not doing it for the $150. I mean, I don't know where that number would have to get to before they'd start looking at it differently, but certainly $150 is not going to, again, I'm not trying to slam. Obviously they're trying. I appreciate the intent, but sometimes the intent and the actual results are not mutually, beneficial, so.
So I read the York County resolution seemed a lot more generous than $150. The question I have is, what does the county do about the school district? They can't take money away from the school district. So, when they say it's 100, in York County, theoretically, you get up to 100% of your tax, but if that's just the county side of the tax, it's sort of, if it says 100% of your tax, public's gonna think, well, all taxes are wiped out. I think that's only the county side. I think the school district has to chime in to give any of their tax money away.
Well, that was the article. The other one, I think that was out towards Pittsburgh. They were really looking for property tax relief from the school district, which would have been significant.
Yeah.
And to know whether that would have, but then it had, what are the criteria? How many calls you have to go on? Who's keeping all that data? I think you guys keep good data anyway, but it does bring up some complications. Yeah.
But that's already been established by the state under their, as I understand it. What we just got in the email yesterday or today, it shows what the state said you have to do. One of the things is the burden is not on the administrative, but it's on chiefs to keep track of all this. And even though in our case, a good many people, it might apply to that's not fighting fire, but that they're helping with other functions. So now it's saying dump all this on the fire chief, and then it has to go to the township, I think, to be reviewed, but it definitely goes to the county level, and then they're gonna look to see if you paid your taxes, and then they're gonna see if you're eligible. But it did say about, they did make a change to it, and they said up to the full amount of your tax. But again, like Paul said, we have a whole lot of young people, all the fire companies do, that are starting to come in or are there, and they don't know houses.
Yeah.
So.
That's one of the metrics that you're trying to track on that spreadsheet, by the way, is if you own or rent, and if you live or work in East St. Peter Township, to see if it actually is a benefit to us, that we can make a data-driven decision.
I'm even hesitant to bring up what we talked about the meeting front end, but one of the participants in the meeting actually received a retirement plan from the state of New York for being a volunteer firefighter. That there was a retirement plan that funded a pension for firefighters, and you could either take a lump sum or you could take it as annuity. That's where we were talking about volunteers, but then it gets into the finance piece. So it's kind of like you have to try to keep as narrow as you can what you're working on. But that was one thing that he had talked about as an incentive for firefighters, is there be an annuity for retirement, which would then, it wouldn't matter whether you own property or not, that would be funding going into a retirement plan. Just reporting it because it came up at our meeting.
Thank you for those reports. One thing that comes to mind is, I think at least two of the committees seem like standing committees that would continue because they're constantly getting new ideas. I don't know that we've really said, we created these committees. Are they going to operate for a certain amount of time and make recommendations? Or are they going to continue on? Certainly public information seems like it's kind of organic and alive and new ideas. And I kind of think the same way almost about the volunteer side. Whereas maybe finance does all this work, comes up with some recommendations to come to this committee, and then this committee decides, okay, what are the next steps? Do we have something that we want to present to the Board of Supervisors and so forth? And just some preliminary talk about that. It's going to be, several months of work, I think, the Finance Committee especially. So I don't know that we need to worry about that right now. When is the stopping point? But I would think if we were going to do anything that might impact next year's budget, we better have something ready by the end of the summer, early fall, and moving forward. All right. Okay, the next item C under old business is the calendar. Previously, a 2024 planned capital expenditures. My understanding, they have been discussed with township staff. They know those. I don't know if anyone here, any representatives have any changes or additions to those capital expenditures, but we did go through those lists before. And we would simply be verifying that they're going to move forward with our vote on those here this evening. So anything from the fire companies on anything new that hasn't been reported on capital expenditures. So if not, we can actually, let me go through the 3 items that we have on here because they have been involved in previous work, and then we can vote on them as a group, if that's okay. So we have the 2024 activities that were approved and covered by our workman's comp insurance. I think we had copies of those made available. And we have a list. I think that's a list that we've had for some time. I don't know how much change has come up with that.
It's really the same list as we had last year.
Okay.
Probably the year before. Yeah. And the board of supervisors did approve these. Didn't want something to happen that, then somebody reviews and says, well, where's your activities list for 24? But if there are any changes, additions that, the group thinks we ought to make, we can take those back to the supervisors and get it corrected. So,
and that'd be my mistake then. Is this more informational then, as far as we're concerned?
Yeah.
Or are they a final version that we have to somehow approve?
Yeah, the supervisors have
Yeah.
approved. So ultimately that's who needs to.
Right.
I know we discussed it. I'm not sure if it was at the meeting where we didn't have the quorum, but I think all 4 companies were okay with it. So yeah, I don't know if they officially approved it, but since it's already been approved.
Okay, right. Okay, we wanted to do that then.
Well, it does bring up a question.
Fixes,
Right.
we can.
It does bring up a question. If this is covering fire company members, right? What if they're volunteers, like from the community helping with a fundraiser? Does it cover those people too in the event that they're injured? Okay.
Is that a yes?
Yes, there was a change. A couple of years ago, the state changed the law and it made it more complicated to cover those folks. But yes, we were paying for that coverage through SWIFT. And
On that list, Ralph, there's question marks on the final 2. Maybe they just weren't removed after approved.
yeah, they should have been not there. So
No problem. So those are included. Okay. All right. And then the 2024 calendar, contributed by all our fire companies. And we submitted a funding plan calendar for 2024. If there's any corrections or comments about that, we'll take those now. Otherwise, we'll consider those submitted to us in firm. Okay. All right. Let's move on to 6 new business. Just going around the horn. We'll start with township. Just anything to report to the committee.
Sure. We did update the contact information for all the fire companies, so especially the fire company reps, if you can make sure that facts are updated for your use when needed. And I guess I think I do every time we meet, if there are any updates for the driver lists and the vehicle list for the fuel card system, please let us know. Get everybody's work to put together spill control reports and get that information to us. Aware of the other activities that have been going on. They're away from Whitmer, but I know that they've been communicating with chief of police about active shooter kind of events and discussion around those things. And I just want to make sure that all the other fire companies were aware of that and had the opportunity to participate in that as that.
What was our middle school?
Any active shooters.
Oh, okay. They recently, they had something in the middle school, I believe, training.
We just had a date, Ralph, scheduled for the training at the firehouse. I'll send it out to the township chiefs. The big drill is not scheduled yet, but when it is, everybody will be invited because they're all in the run for that box.
What you were talking about was structure fire.
Structure fire, okay.
Other thing I wanted to mention is the forecast meeting, is Wednesday, the 31st. So sure everybody got the notice of that and hopefully has responded to it. And all 4 fire companies will have the opportunity to present information to that group. So appreciate your participation in that effort.
Which I need by tomorrow.
Which has been made known to everybody. So
So you need responses from.
I need any information I can share.
And information, okay? Very good. Please note that, all representatives from the companies. So let's go around the horn. Let's start with Lafayette, Fire Company, business and happenings.
Yeah, a couple changes with our officers standpoint. We did bring back our assistant chief's positions as Dylan Lee. A couple other changes within the line officers, shuffling some responsibilities around to better match the abilities of our officers, whether that's training, whether that's apparatus, whatever it may be. A couple minor changes on the administrative side of things. Jeff Hatfield's now vice president, and we did have a couple changes in our members at large. As far as planning for this year, we're looking to get a postcard out at some point in the near future with all of our events for the year. We had an extra mailer with our fund drive with the arrangement. We have worked with our supplier for that as far as being able to send that out. So that's what we're planning to utilize that for. Chicken barbecue scheduled for April 13th. And our Fosnot event also, the date on that. That's what I was just trying to look, February 12th and 13th. So we're doing that again, and we should hopefully, we've been setting the funds aside for that for a gear extractor for drying gear as kind of a cancer prevention thing in memory of Jan Fosnot. So we're hoping this year's proceeds, we should be there to be able to purchase one.
What was the chicken barbecue date?
April 13th. We do have cadet camp is in the works again, so there'll be more dates and information coming on that.
31 June 1.
Is that finalized? And so, yeah, things keep moving along. That's it for now.
Okay. Great. All right. How about Whitmer?
We have our Oxford coming up on February 10th. We have another one April 27th and October 19th. Our next blood drive is February 28th. Penn Medicine and Whitmer are continuing the partnership for 2024 with the blood drives every 8 weeks and a Child Protect, which is a vaccination clinic for 2024.
Oxford's dates again.
I'm sorry. February 10th, April 27th, and October 19th. Over the winter, we had some PR public relations events. We had Milk and Cookies with Santa, which was successful this year. Again, this was our second year, Mike. And the PR committee is formulating some meetings soon to get our spring and summer events scheduled.
Okay, great. All right. Thank you for that. And Rops? Okay. And hand in hand.
Yeah, just on the fundraising, we have our first event coming up in February. Also, the 24th will be our pot pie dinner. So we have that coming up. We had elections in December. Not a whole lot of change there. I think chiefs are all the same. Most of the administrative staff is the same. There will be a few line officers that have changed, but nothing really unexpected there. And I guess the only other thing is I just want to thank the other fire companies again for their continued support on the fairgrounds. We don't talk about this a lot here, but especially the incident we had there in Burton Hand at the inn. Appreciate everybody coming out and doing their thing and supporting the scene there, our chiefs and officers and Burton Hand Corps. So yeah, other than that, I don't think I really have a whole lot.
Okay. Thank you for that. I was going to ask just any comment about that incident, if there were some significant, moments of learning that we get, from obviously a very terrible situation, but you do learn from them, and that was a classic cooperative effort again, right?
Yeah, I think it went really well. I mean, I should have our chiefs report on that, 'cause I don't wanna, they're the ones that were there running the scene and everything, and have a lot more detail than I'm familiar with, but my understanding is it went really well, and it's about as good as, could have gone given the circumstances. It was, obviously an unfortunate, accident, but, I think it goes to show how well the township is prepared for those types of, those are the kinds of things that can happen, and they can happen anywhere at any time. And that's just a good example where, the last thing in the world you would expect, but,
Was that a situation that involved calling in any other type of special equipment or expertise because of the nature of it?
Yeah, I don't believe so. No, I don't think it's pretty much, normal fairground operations, given the size of it. Obviously, it was more apparatus there. There was kind of a unusual, and probably the most unusual part of the incident that I'm aware of was the fact that it actually blew debris from that onto the building next door, which was a restaurant, punctured the roof, and actually punctured a gas line in the roof of the adjacent building. That luckily, because of people going in and out of it, they were able to notice that, because again, just to show you the nature of these types of things and how completely out of control. Had somebody not noticed that, we could have very well had a second major explosion, which would have been, kind of things you just think of. What are the chances of, that type of thing, that it would actually penetrate the roof next to it, and then of all the things to hit another gas line in that building. So, but no, I think everybody did it. And all the reports I got back from our officers and from everybody that I talked to, were very pleased with the way that everybody.
We have to do that because certainly conditions were challenging. The wind,
rain,
storm, middle of the night. Literally the middle of the night, right? So just great job, everyone who contributed. Just, a real moment of pride, I think, in the memorial that happened later. I know many people there were very, very appreciative of our fire service and what they did that night. So, okay. All right, time now we move on to public comment. Anyone have anything to share? Maybe I moved. I'm sorry, I moved a little too quickly. Jeff Hatfield. Jeff, do you have anything to report for just in general?
Yeah, we're monitoring the weather conditions that are going on. We've been sending out notifications on our website and Facebook in regards to current weather conditions that have been occurring. So tonight we're supposed to be getting more snow coming in. Should be starting around 12 midnight from the latest weather I got from Pima, and from 12 to 5 a.m. we should be getting the snow inch per hour, and we're looking at maybe about 4 to 5 inches. Depends. I don't believe everything they say, the weathermen, sometimes. So just everybody take extra precautions driving. Any other emergency situations occur with the weather, I'll send it out.
Okay, thank you, Jeff. And anything from our citizen members? Nothing. Okay. All right, now time for public comment. Anything from the public? No one else online, right, Tara?
There is no.
Okay. With that, take a motion to adjourn. Make a motion to adjourn. Motion second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.